Quiet on the set.
Camera speed.
Sound production, take one.
Action!
I'm just grateful for this movie to be out there, to be available. I mean, it's always on some streaming service. There hasn't been an era, a type of content consumption like VHS, Laserdisc, DVD, Blu-ray, streaming, that Robocop hasn't been there, which is wild to me. My buddy Scott lived around the corner from me. I literally used to run to his house. This was one of the movies that Sky and I it just seemed like we would watch on repeat. Now, I know that's an exaggeration, but we would just watch this movie. The violence, the dude getting shot in the dick, the slime, I mean, I don't even know the gang's name, which I should, because recently I was just quizzing myself on if I could name all the Top Gun call signs, every member of the colonial marines from Aliens, and everyone from the Blood Pack in Blade 2. I don't know the gang names, but there's a scene that Sky and I would just rewind, and it's at the end where one of the gangster guys, he gets like covered with acid or some type of chemical, which is a commentary on corporate capitalism polluting the environment. And there was a lot of that back then. Recently we discussed Toxic Avenger. Toxic Avenger is the absolute definition of that observation. But he gets hit by a car and just like splatters. We thought this movie was wild and fun. We didn't take it seriously, but we liked the blood and guts. We liked the violence. We liked the unruly gangs that were in this. And so many of these movies I'm talking about recently that are deep influences for me, they have this element. I call it the 80s gangs, which is even something we saw in Alan Moore's Watchmen, the greatest comic book of all time. These gangs had a lack of humanity, and it was just for their pure enjoyment. And you always say to yourself, like, because you watch these people get killed, what's the end game for the gang member? Like, are we in the gang our entire lives? Are we retiring from the gang? Do we live a lifestyle that like a little bit like Tom Cruise in Mission Impossible? Like you live and die in the shadows, meaning like this is going to be it for me. The life cycle of the 80s gang member is becoming it's becoming more and more fascinating to me. I mean, even going back to Jean-Claude Van Damme's Cyborg, like that gang, absolute zero humanity. So we get a lot of that in Robocop. We get this resurrection. Now, a lot of people will say Robocop has Christ-like elements. I'm sorry, it does not. There's nothing Christ-like about this movie. Sure, a guy comes back from the dead. Sure, Paul Verhoeven, some of the people involved with the movie, pissed on your leg and told you it was raining 10-20 years after the movie came out, when the movie became a perpetual t-shirt at Hot Topic. But they always go back. You see this time and time again. And this is one of the reasons why it's tough to watch a lot of film like postmodern commentary, because they get in touch with the screenwriters, the producer, all these people involved, and a lot of it too is just the actors, because the actors are roughly irrelevant. The crew members are usually the guys still working, but you get this. You always get people shining it, like polishing it, telling you it meant more. We see this with Ridley Scott with his endless Blade Runner discussion, where they think they can add more significance to something that so many people deem as significant. It's very similar. I will always talk about Alien people will talk about that being a feminist movie, and it's like there's no feminism in Alien, but it's got hot chick in her underwear at the end. But RoboCop is always there for me, and recently, and we'll be talking about it on Saturday, Sunday. Maybe I'll drop these 2 episodes around the same time. But there was a RoboCop animated series called Alpha Commando, 1998 to 1999. Now, that's an offshoot of the 1988 series RoboCop. So there's, in effect, 2 animated series for RoboCop. This dropped on Amazon, and when I saw it available, my jaw dropped, and I literally stopped everything I was doing to start watching the show. And it's phenomenal. Alpha Commando might be the best extension of the RoboCop universe outside of RoboCop 2. So leading into that, the summer of 1990, it's so fond. Finally remember, I remember going with 2 Scots, where I got to 2 Scots from my neighborhood who kind of didn't like each other, but we all agreed to go see some of these movies together, which was wild. Like it was almost like my 2 best friends are together. And we saw RoboCop 2, Gremlins 2 New Batch, and Terminator 2 Judgment Day, all within the same arc. And growing up, if you asked me if any of those movies were the greatest sequel of all time, I would have said yes. This is before all the conversation, again, referencing Scream, went to Aliens, Terminator 2, Godfather 2. That was like almost your trifecta of you must love these movies. You must honor how great of a sequel all of these movies are. Always leaving out The Color of Money, films like that. But we saw RoboCop 2 together. And the kid gang member in RoboCop 2, and that gang, and kind of where the girl gang pimpette, the gang hoe. Once the guy gets killed and he starts turning into RoboCop 2, she follows the power, and the power lies within this like teenage kid, and she's kind of like into him in like a weird way, and it's very like, I guess by today's like progressive standards, they would just be fine with that, right? But back then it was weird to watch. It was weird to rewatch, but we loved RoboCop 2. And I always looked at RoboCop 1 and 2 as just one block. It's one collection. This is a single story. And 3 years later, being at this point, 1993, being fully embedded in reading everything comic book, Comic Scene magazine, Comic Interview, Wizard magazine, Hero Illustrated, lots of Starlog. I love Starlog. I always wanted to get deeper into Fandango, but never had. Like you can only do so much, and magazines were, again, like a higher price point thing. You could buy like 3 comics for the price of 1 magazine back then. But I read about Frank Miller, and I knew who Frank Miller was because 2 of the earliest comics I remember fully reading and understanding was Watchmen and Dark Knight Returns. So the guy from Dark Knight Returns writing this RoboCop epic, and he's going to be like in the movie as a cameo. His name's like fully featured. I could not wait to see RoboCop 3. At this point, successful toy line, even though, like it lasted as long as it did. It was on TV. 2 movies. So let's go. And RoboCop 3, I just remember absolutely being disappointed. But it was so much so where I moved on from RoboCop 3. Like I never, even to this day, I don't know too much of the story, the plot. I know there's like a Japanese corporation involved. I know it has some of the same like corporate members, like cast members. But I don't know what the resolution is. I don't know what the arc is. I believe they reprogram him in RoboCop 3 and he becomes a little bit like a puss. That's all I can tell you about that movie. I often reference The Matrix Revolutions and The Matrix Reloaded, Star Wars Episode 1, Phantom Menace, Batman and Robin, as you know, like at this point I'm in my formative years where I'm just trying to get in front of like as much stuff as possible. Like those three movies, absolute disappointments. Like feeling angry as I'm watching it as a film goer in the movie theater. I didn't quite feel that with Robocop 3, but talking about it now, yeah, maybe my absolute first disappointment, just because I was so connected to Frank Miller at the time. And then, just as a franchise, Robocop gets rebooted in 2014, a much misunderstood movie. To be really clear, television. So a lot of people, they go back and forth about this Prime Directives show. Now, I believe there was there was another television show after Robocop 3. I don't know how many episodes that, like, I mean, I would have to look that up, but a lot of this I'm going from like a quick list here. But then there was what's in the 2000s, early 2000s, it was called Prime Directives. And we see a lot of YouTube content around Prime Directives where it's like we're told that maybe we didn't understand that series too well. Like we misread the series, if you will. The series is a lot better, potentially ahead of its time, potentially visionary. There is YouTube content out there, but like there's YouTube content on both sides of like everything. But I'll be honest, some of it sparks my curiosity. Now there's also Robo Doc, the creation of Robocop. This is one of those documentaries that I like to stay away from. Movie-based documentaries, like single movie-based documentaries that are not made around the production of the movie. That is just rose-colored lens type documentaries. I don't feel like they add a lot to the conversation or any of this. But Robocop, just even to this day, it's a movie, it's a soundtrack. I listen to it. I think it has one of the most powerful original scores. Robocop is one of the most original practical movie costume designs in Hollywood history. And interesting, if you really want to learn about the development of Robocop and what happened around the production, you have to get the making of Judge Dredd. See, the producers of Judge Dredd were at one time the producers of Robocop, but they split up. The two fractions split up, and they took the idea of Judge Dredd and they were able to streamline it into Robocop, which is why he has a visor. He like mostly covers his face, right? Only takes it off when he's being worked on. A lot of the Robocop elements in Robocop are Judge Dredd, and that pushed the Judge Dredd movie back like 10 years, right? Because it wasn't until 97, 98. And the introduction of that book discusses this. Really, really amazing stuff. That's a cheap book. You have to buy it. Some fantastic artwork in it too. I love the set photos from that Judge Dredd. And then, like, what happens with Robocop now is something that, like I said, I can put this movie on at any time because I view it as a perfect film. We're in this renaissance now of the Alien Predator franchises. Like Dune Part 3, like insane anticipation for that. We've gone through giant Marvel Cinematic Universes. The beginning of the DC universe was earlier last month. But film going and the cinema experience, it's morphed. I mean, they just released this awesome trailer for I think it's called Sweet Revenge, but it's a Jason Voorhees reboot. And you look at the Child's Play TV series from Sci-Fi, but the Cult of Chucky, Bride of Chucky, Child's Play, like, just keeps evolving and living on. In my view, a solid Halloween trilogy from Blumhouse. If you haven't seen what I'm trying to say, let me just sketch it out for you. Nearly everything outside of Freddy Krueger and Robocop has a modern day revival that is interesting, that is of quality, makes you want to watch it, adds to it all, expands all of it. Robocop is a shell that they cannot crack. And I like that. I think it makes Robocop special. And I hope it stays that way. Because there is something to preserve with these reboots. Quick example. The Alien Earth stuff just dropped. And it just absolutely confuses not only Alien, but Blade Runner. Blade Runner confuses all of it. Predator, Hunter of Hunters confuses like everything that we've seen up until that point. And they're adding interesting layers to these things, and new people are discovering it. And that's really who it's for. It's not for the old heads like myself. But Robocop is special for that reason. It's an island. And I hope it stays that way.
Okay, that's a wrap.